welcome to the Real Stuff podcast. This morning we are back at Indigenous Outlook, and this morning we have a very special guest, Akilah Jaramogi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And
Good morning.
She's out of Trinidad. I also have with me this morning my co-host Courtney. So how are you, Akilah?
Good morning. Akilah Jaramogi here from Trinidad, Merikin Maroons. I'm fine, giving thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, could we start with you? Just tell our listeners a little about yourself and the things that you do and the people you are in charge of or you look after.
Okay, thank you. I am Akilah Jaramogi again, Ifa Bosola, and I am an Orisha practitioner, and I live in the forest in St. Anne's. I'm the founder of the Fonsuman Community Reforestation Project, co-founded by myself and my late husband, Akilah Jaramogi, and it's in the hills of Trinidad, Port of Spain. So those of you who are familiar with Trinidad, we can see the savanna from where I am, the big savanna. Yes, so I am not far away from the city, but again, here I manage over 300 acres of land, planting trees, bringing back forest cover, caring for the river, and taking care of Mother Earth. At the same time, addressing social issues within my community, employing young people and, things like that into ecotourism and cultural, performances and so on. So that's what we do here at Fonsuman, taking care of people and taking care of our forests. But outside of that, I'm also a cultural activist, and I continue to manage my people and work with my people and empower my people, not just in Trinidad, but I work with other groups throughout the Caribbean. And I'll share more as we talk about our Maroon mission around the region. Yeah.
First question I'd like to ask you, how are your people integrating with the rest of Trinidad?
How is my people in terms of at Fonsuman here, or my Merikin people?
Yeah, your people in Trinidad. Yeah, your group in the forest.
Oh, okay. I live in the forest. My workers are from, around the watershed, St. Anne's, Cascade, downtown, Port of Spain, different parts of Trinidad, workers come, I have 30 workers on my project. So we, they work for a certain hour, like from 7 to 12, and then they would go, and I continue my work in the forest. But outside of that, my Merikin people in South Trinidad, in the company villages, they continue to have their own farms and so on, planting, different crops and stuff like that, as we keep a team of making food security our #1 priority, and that's within our Merikin community,
What is the American community? Explain.
Okay, the Merikins. Merikins are Africans who were taken away from their homeland and settled on plantations in the US. Following that, a lot of them ran away from plantations when the 1812 War for America started, and they hid in swamps and in the forests and so on, and they freed themselves. So that's why they were declared Maroons. They were called Maroons, North American Maroons.
Okay.
And during the War of 1812, these runaway Africans were offered to fight on the side of the British. So some of them end up, being colonial Marines. They were trained by the British, in the War of 1812, while some just couldn't be bothered. They were just free in the forest. So after the war in 1812, in 1814, that war ended. The British ended up losing the war, but they held on to the promise of giving these Africans who fought on their side freedom. You know, to use the term like giving them a British passport. However, that was to take them out of America. So after the war in 1812, in 1814, the soldiers, the then now African soldiers, were sent to Bermuda. And from Bermuda, they were sent to Halifax in Canada. And then they were sent to Trinidad. So the marriage took place in the US and they settled in South Trinidad. They came in company batches, and the first company of soldiers that settled in Trinidad were there. We call that area First Company. And they were all given 16 acres of land. So that is why today we are still connected to those lands in South Trinidad. So the 760 soldiers that came, each of them had 16 acres of land. Yeah, and now they still continue their farming and so on. They came with grains and stuff. Some of them, we had the rice, the corn, and the bene. You'll hear about the African rice or the Merikin rice or the hill rice. And we still have the hill rice today. We still have bene, you know, the sesame, some would call it sesame, bene.
Yes.
And we still have the red corn, you know, so a special corn that we still have in, that came from Africa. Today, you can still see that within our American community. So again, this is what we have done. We have been able, we as Americans have been able to hold on to the tradition, you know, by, and again, we rename ourselves. We did not call ourselves Americans, African Americans. We call ourselves Americans. You know, we dropped the A and we created a new name. We brand ourselves. We created a new name because being in Trinidad in 1816 as free blacks, while plantations were still in existence, slavery was still going on. But in the southeastern part of Trinidad there, we interacted with the indigenous groups down there, which was the Waro mainly, you know, the Waro people from Venezuela that settled in Moruga. Yeah, and with that, we end up, you know, working together with them, and today we still continue to work with them, you know, and coexist. Some of them even intermarried, you know, married Africans and so on. So we have African, we have Merikin, Waro, you know, existing right now even in South Trinidad. So we pay homage to the First Peoples, but again, the Americans that settled, the Africans that settled in South Trinidad, we called ourselves Americans, you know, and today we stand tall and proud, you know, representing our ancestors, keeping the heritage alive, and continue to work with other Maroons around the Caribbean.
Wonderful, wonderful. What about language? Have you retained the language?
Okay, the language. Again, we have lost a lot along the way in terms of language, you know, and for Americans, a lot of us held on to our Yoruba tradition, you know, so more in prayers and so on, you would find when we have, you know, our gathering or when we have special prayers and stuff, we will still call on our ancestors, you know, through using the Yoruba language, you know, when we offer libation, we'd say, Omi tutu, onitutu, ile tutu, tularoye, tutu ariku babawa, meaning cool house, cool path, cool head, you know, clearing the path for us, asking our ancestors. So we held on to the little that we could have, you know, through, you know, spiritual pathways and so on. But that is one thing still we have to, you know, work on bringing back, you know, our languages that were lost. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So, Akilah, how is the younger generation, descendants of the Americans, are they appreciating the culture and the heritage?
Oh yes, definitely. While some of them are so integrated into society, it have some who are truly embracing to their culture, who, you know, I say, you know, who who just continue to live the part. You know, they will dress like I am dressed every day, you know, and even when we have special functions, you'll see a lot of them come out with the African wear and so on, you know, and still hold on mainly to the land and their spirituality. And that is very, very important. That's something that we'll find in the Merikin community. A lot of them, even if they are not the traditional Yoruba practitioners and so on, a lot of churches and so on in the company villages, mainly Baptist churches, you'll find there, you know, where our ancestors had set up in the earlys, you still find it existing today.
Okay, in checking on your people, I found an interesting word. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Gaia, G-A-Y-A-P. Yeah.
Gaia. Oh, yes.
Gaia. Yeah.
Gaia.
Can you elaborate on that for us, for our listeners and viewers?
Okay, and again, the Gaia is simply lend a hand. The Gaia is working together for a positive cause. And just now, I just completed a meeting, ended a meeting there with my people, my staff. We are preparing for Gaia on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, this weekend here. And the Gaia is all about, you know, caring for the earth. It's all about inviting folks to come along, because during this time, the dry season here, you know, we are exposed to forest fires on the hillside here in St. Anne's around the estate that I, you know, have here. And what we would normally do is cut fire breaks to show that fire don't come in and, you know, destroy the trees and so on. So for us, our forest fire Gaia, it's all about cutting fire breaks. It's all about clearing drains, building check dams, you know. In some areas, if we have a lot of rain, we plant trees, but we don't normally plant trees in the dry season, you know, like we don't really give that direction that we're doing tree planting activity much. We do more like tending plants and, you know, molding plants and doing, you know, terracing and so on during the dry season. And later in the year, like when we enter in the fullness of the rainy season, like around World Environment Day, we have Gaia where we get people to come together and plant a lot of trees and so on and so on. So for us, the Gaia this weekend is more cutting fire breaks and clearing part and maintaining some of the existing fire breaks as well, clearing drains or creating new contour drains, creating wildlife ponds where, you know, in the dry season, animals can still come down and get water and so on. You know, so these are the activities we'll be having during the Gaia. Also cleaning the river, going on the river line, you know, if we see any garbage or anything, we have people, you know, rake up and clean up. We also have storytelling, we have drumming, we have, you know, good food. And so that is what Gaia is all about, lend hand, working together for a positive cause.
What's the relationship with you and the Trinidadian government?
Sorry, I wasn't hearing.
Yes. One just asking, what is the relationship with the Americans and the Trinidadian government?
Oh, the relationship with Americans and the Trinidad government, we do have a pretty good relationship with our government. They respect the fact that, you know, we are here as a group, you know, of Africans, indigenous African peoples, and because we have title to lands and so on, they respect that, and we work in harmony, you know, not a lot of tension, and if we have needs, we just write a proposal and, you know, or something, and we reach out to the government, whether it's culture ministry or tourism or so on, and we get support, you know, along the way. So our relationship with the state is a very good one.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you incorporate tourism in your area?
Oh, yes, definitely. Here at Fonsuman, we are big into community tourism and heritage tourism and ecotourism as well. And in South Trinidad, in our Merikin community, we do a lot of tours, heritage tourism, culture tourism, and so on. So again, yes, we are involved in tourism. We will closely, well, we are partners with like the National Trust and the National Archives. So when there are events and so on, they will bring people down to the company villages and we'll take them through and, you know, and tell them about, you know, our culture, our history. Yeah, and yeah.
What about Tobago? You have communities in Tobago also?
Oh, yes, we do have relatives in Tobago, but not in a way like how we were settled in South Trinidad, where Americans were settled and given lands. Because, for example, we came with 6 batches of soldiers in the company villages, and you'll hear areas like New Grant and Hard Bargain and Devil's Wood Yard and First Company and Second Company, Third Company, Fourth Company, Fifth Company, and Sixth Company. So when you come to Trinidad and you say, I want to go to 6th Company, that's one of the largest company areas. And then you will find a lot of Americans there who can show you, you know, their deeds and so on that they inherited from their, you know, grandparents and so on. So, but unlike Tobago, they did not settle in Tobago to say, well, okay, like in Mason Hall or Charlottesville, you have Americans with 16 acres of land here and 16 acres of land. You know, it's those Americans that left Trinidad and just decided to go settle in Tobago and create a life for themselves over there. Like for me, my father is from Tobago. He's from Mason Hall, Tobago, but he's not American. It's my mother is the Merikin. So my father and my grandfather came from Jamaica. I still yet to track that route in Jamaica. Yes, my grandfather came from Jamaica, settled in Tobago, you know, and met my grandmother on my father's side. Yeah.
Okay, okay. You said that the soldiers were the ones who came to Trinidad. So were women part of those soldiers?
Yes, yes, we had women as well, accompanied the men, yes, but the majority were men, you know, so the large numbers were men. So we always have also, I'll just show you here, it's always close to me, like this photo of the Merikin family.
Okay.
You know, like a little image, always close to me. This is how we came, you know, but we had more male than female. And so a lot of women came from Grenada and Barbados and so on and settled close to the, you know, close to an area called Princestown, where, you know, the American soldiers end up taking some of these ladies for wives and so on. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Total integration.
Okay.
Integration.
Okay, Abilel, what about artifacts and a museum? Do we have a museum with artifacts?
We do have members of our community, our American community, who are collectors. One of my relatives, Leonie Roberts, at present, she has a small museum at her house. Yeah, and lower in Moruga, there's another young man. He's part Waro and Merikin and different cultures. He too has a collection, you know, of artifacts as well. One of our members, he passed away last year, Cohen Kalinda. He had a really big collection, you know, part of that collection is now in Muruga, which is lower, you know, American settlement area, and we are hoping one day to have funds enough to build a proper museum where we can bring the collections together, you know. But so far we have our American families, a lot of them with their, you know, personal collections and so on.
Yeah, I want to take this time to congratulate you on your recent Maroon gathering in Dominica.
Thank you.
We spoke at that time, yes. But where does that go from here?
Okay, so I give thanks. I give thanks so much when we talk about, where we are in terms of our movement, in terms of mobilizing our brothers and sisters throughout the Caribbean, building awareness. And this movement started in 1814 when Mama G, Gloria Sims, Fidelia Grand Galorn, our Queen Fidelia ambassador, and also one of my members, Kerwin Kalinda, the same one who passed away. They all met in Suriname in 2014, yeah, and a memorandum of understanding was signed. And following that, in 2015, we just continue. Well, I continue to work, and nonstop. I continue to take on the task. I joined the sisters, because Kevin just represented us, and he came back with all the tasks, and I just continued to take up the task and work with the sisters, Fidelia, myself, and Mama G. Then we went to the US, and we went to Jamaica, where we put a declaration together, and we informed some of the elders in Jamaica, brothers and sisters from Scott Hall and Charlestown and Trelawney Town and Accompong and Moortown. We had met at Charlestown for one of the Maroon gathering, and we shared what what our mission was, in terms of uniting Maroons of the diaspora, and, to stand up as a united body seeking, indigenous status, indigenous people status. So we will, be respected, our rights will be respected, our indigeneity will be respected, our sovereignty would be respected. That's why we came together, to stand up and be a voice for each other. However, that happened in 2017, and then 2018 we had a legal rep, took our case to Geneva, to the United Nations, just sharing about who we are and so on, and what our goal was for the Maroon peoples. Then in 2019 we took a contingent to the United Nations Indigenous Peoples Forum, Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, where again, we put our case forward, about seeking the rights and privileges, seeking that, that recognition, right? And following that in 2019, in 2020, because of COVID, we couldn't move around. But last year in 2021, we were able to raise a lot of our brothers and sisters as we gathered in Dominica, answering the call of our ancestors. Going there, was really call. It was not just like, okay, this is an agenda, we want to fulfill it. It was our ancestors calling to us, those ancestors who died, fought and died for us, that was calling us, and when we reached in Dominica, it was so, powerful. We started our first day with the Kalinago brothers and sisters. We were there with the indigenous group in the forest, by the river, paying homage to Mama Earth, paying homage to the ancestors, but most of all, respecting the first peoples and getting their blessing to continue. After that, we went and we had a libation gathering. We had a special libation in the marketplace. And that and all it was just like, it was the power of the ancestors was just like, was awakened. We were just, paying, as we pay homage and we call some of the name. When we say Bella, just feel the energy. When you say Facel, you say Congore, you say Cicero, we call them Jaco, Kouachi, and we call them those elders who were abused, who were mistreated, who were neglected. We call on them and we call on their energy to guide us through. And that was the opening. Our brothers and sisters, we pray and we sing and we chant. And then we went back to our conference room, seeking to, put systems in place for our next trip. And the next trip is this trip here that we are going on in April. But at the end of the gathering in Dominica, we also came up with a name for the movement, you know, the United Maroon Peoples, which forms an umbrella body for all the other Maroon organizations, including our own Maroon Women Chambers of Cooperation, or American Heritage Foundation. Then we have several other organizations in the Caribbean, the 12th of July movement in Dominica. Then we have the Maroon Women Circus in Jamaica, Mama G's organization. And we have the Belize movement, Indigenous peoples, the Garafunas, you know. So again, you know, forming this United Maroon Peoples movement, it was really something that was needed. Because when we look at what is happening in Jamaica, what happened around the cockpit country issue, and what happened, you know, with your government and so on, and the way they started to treat the Maroons, treat the indigenous peoples, it was not a good feeling at all. It was something that we had to go and consult ancestors and the elders and ask, what is happening? What is worked so hard in the Caribbean to keep our culture alive, to keep our roots alive, to keep our way alive, our way of living alive. Today, you know, we have to be treated like lesser than, or to be told that our sovereignty is not respected. It's a nice feeling. This is why we are seeking indigenous people status. So, you know, coming from the UN or even our African countries, you know, whether it's the Organization of African Unity or whoever we have to turn to, you know, to support Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Senegal, whoever in Africa where our DNA flows, you know, we have to get the support. So the member states here in the Caribbean, so CARICOM and other leaders will know and understand and have to understand that we are a sovereign group of people that need to be respected and appreciated and treated with dignity and pride, just like any other indigenous groups in the region. And that's why we pay homage to our indigenous peoples as well. When we say homage and thanks to the, you know, Garafunas, homage and thanks to the Kalinagos, to the Tainos, to the Waros, to the Temni people in Grenada. How many of us know about our Temni brothers and sisters in Carriacou, who came from Sierra Leone and settled in Carriacou and still keep their culture going, you know? And so many histories that are untold, you know? We need to start changing the narrative when it comes to education, you know, so our young people will have something to hold on to, that sense of pride of being, that sense of pride of being African, with that runs in our DNA, you know, in our dance, in our music, in our song, in our spirituality, in our farming, in our lifestyle, you know, and we have to be respected and appreciated as such. So hence the reason why our mission is to go out there, you know, not just to the UN Indigenous Peoples Forum, but also we will be going to the Forum for People of African Descent, that newly formed Forum for People of African Descent, and stand up for our rights. So find ways that we can get our leaders around the world to stand up on our behalf as well and support us on this move. So as we stand tall and proud on the shoulders of our ancestors, we continue to give thanks. We continue to celebrate our Blackness and our goodness and our greatness. We continue to look at the contribution that we have given here in the Caribbean, that we are making in the Caribbean, you know, to keep ourselves as a peoples, you know, to keep ourselves holding on to tradition, to keep ourselves, you know, goodness of Africa. This is what we manifest, and this is what we want to be treated as, you know. Yeah.
Can you put us in touch with the people in Carriacou? Can you put us in contact with the people in Carriacou?
Oh yes, the Temni people in Carriacou for sure. Yeah.
Please do, yes.
Will do. And the link is through also my brother Amadou Masali, you know, because the Temni people came from Sierra Leone.
Okay. Okay. First I'm hearing about them.
Okay, so again, you know, our history needs to be told. And
Okay.
more and more, I say thanks to your program and many other programs like this. So at least we can reach out and connect our people because we need that connection. We need a connection to bring that sense of pride and goodness, you know, among our people and to stand up for each other, especially in time of need, you know. And outside of that, to celebrate together, you know, the goodness that we have held on to.
Definitely. Brittany?
Yes, surely we thank you, Akilah, for explaining to us all of these things. But I want you to just talk a little bit about this and agroforestry, because it's the first I'm hearing the term. I figured, you know, how they are put together, but can you just explain to our listeners and viewers?
Okay, so here I am in St. Anne's, and I have been engaged in forest rehabilitation work here for over 30 years. My late husband and I started this way back in 1982, and we hold on to a vision to create a healthy agroforestry environment, providing sustainable livelihoods with expression of multicultural tradition based on the FACRP participatory model of community forestry. So there we went deep into community forestry. What is community forestry? How can we encourage communities to see themselves as custodians of their forests? So community forestry was simply getting people from the community to understand what forestry is all about and how important it is to save our forests and our rivers. Yeah. So over the years, we have employed a lot of members from our community to come and work with us. Because when I came on this site here that I am on at Fonsamon, the vegetation was simply razor grass, cocoa palm, and bamboo. It was deemed a fire climax zone. A fire climax zone is an area prone to forest fires. So the tradition of plantation fires was always here, you know, and this was something we wanted to eradicate. We wanted to get rid of because the domino effect after fires is flood. And you would see Mother Earth just washing away, you know, because there's nothing to hold her back on the hillside, you know. So no trees, just grass cover and so on. So we wanted to put an end to this. We wanted to put an end to this. And Takuma and I, we continue to plant. We plant trees. We plant a list of hardwood trees, cedar, and well, cedar is not hardwood, but you know, forest trees, cedar, and then we introduced teak and mabia and acacia and serret and apumat and pui, and you know, and then some fruits, some hard fruits. We put mango and cashew and chenet and pomeracs and guavas and so on to encourage wildlife. And then I'll plant also trees and shrubs for my craft material. So you'll have calabash, you'll have donkey eye or horse eye growing, you'll have something called soap seed, you have magumbo seed, then juju and stinking toe or kakashat or wild locust. So then I started to plant the trees that will give me material to make craft, you know, different trees that I can get beads and seeds to make craft as we talk sustainable livelihoods and so on. So this is what, you know, the type of vegetation that the type of forest cover that we seek to put in as we remove the grass and well, not all the bamboo, but we remove the grass and convert that history of being a fire climax zone or a grassland hillside to a now healthy agroforestry hillside, you know. But at the same time, after making the investment of planting these trees, it meant that we had to invest some time in people, changing their patterns, changing their behavior of slash and burn farming, changing the behavior of just lighting fires and just, you know, be it spite fires, recreation fires, files for hunting. Sometimes they go in and they hunt and they just smoke out animals and so on. We had to do a lot of work, educating the people, not just in our community, but at a national level about these do's and don'ts in the forest as we work towards bringing back the forest cover. And to date, we have planted over 100,000 trees on this hillside. We have received a lot of awards, national awards, corporate awards and so on. Hummingbird Gold from the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, conservation awards and so on from different entities. I've sat on state boards, like the Environmental Management Authority. Today, I am a member of the National Council for Sustainable Development, looking at the environmental policy and how we can use it as community, a community group, and share the model with other communities as well. So again, our effort to do reforestation project here, to do reforestation is a big effort. And it started way back to how I saw my ancestors treat the forest, how from South Trinidad, my ancestors saw the forest as sacred. The way they would plan the food, the way they care for the rivers, the way they will use the rivers as part of their spiritual journey, having baptism and other things in the river, and even for fishing and whatever. And prior to that, the way they would use the forest and the things they would plant and the way they would scape off the land, now you'll hear the fancy term permaculture. But our ancestors, or my grandmother especially, who, continued to be my mentor, I would watch her, plant from Monday to Friday in the forest, and on Saturday she would head to the big market, with a lot of the women from the community as well. And how they would use, around their spaces, they will have edible landscapes instead of just ornamental. So there you will see the passion fruit, and you'll see the barbadine and Christophine and so on running on the and Karaili, on the fence and so on. And then they will have the gray water where the dashing bush and the dashing plants where they will get the leaves to make the callaloo and so on. And then as you go deeper in the forest, they'll have the pigeon peas and sorrel and corn. And then further in the forest, they'll have the yam and so on. So that's the way, I saw, and the life that I saw. And I took that model and I brought it to the city here, because we are not far from the city, but we create a jungle. We create, that country in the city. And it's simply because of our passion and love for the earth.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but we definitely have to invite you back to continue this conversation. So as we close, we'll ask Queen Lubafu to give us our Father in the Garifuna language, and Tafina to take us out. Thank you very much, Akilah.
Yeah, sure.
You lead us to Fula. You belong far away away. Ajugwala Lebabu Seru. Lida Mua, Lida Sungfula. Lida Mua, Lida Sungfula.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know what set me if it could flee. Me have to take away me say. Me have to take away me say. Me have to hide like a thief in the night. Me have to get out of sight. Me have to take away myself. I have to take away myself. I have to utilize I will.